So first of all, I'd like to say that it's always a blessing for me to be able to teach Hebrew. When you teach something, you get lots of credit for it. From the Almighty, of course. Because anything good you do with my teaching, I get credit, a little bit of credit for it. So I thank you for letting me teach you, because I'm gaining more on this teaching than you will.
It's a mitzvah for you.
Yes, indeed. So, one of the things that...
What's your name, by the way?
Yeah, my name is Uzi.
Uzi?
Yeah.
I'm Larry.
Larry, nice meeting you.
And
this is Melvin.
Yeah.
So, before we start, at the end of the class, I'd like your email addresses and phone numbers so I can communicate. The class will take either between 6 to 8 weeks. By the end of the class, you'll be able to read the language, period, with that time frame. Sometimes it takes just 6 weeks. It depends on how much you're going to be practicing at home. Some of you may already know some Hebrew and so on. But the purpose of the class is not just, as far as I'm concerned, is not just to teach how to read, but we're going to learn lots of Judaism and Jewish philosophy and beliefs from the language itself. What I would like to start with is understand your Hebrew names first. Melvin, what's your Hebrew name?
Shimshon Menashe.
Shimshon.
Shimshon.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Shimshon. You have two names, Shimshon and Menashe.
Yes.
And you?
It's Eliezer Mordechai.
Eliezer Mordechai, also a beautiful name. My Hebrew name is Uzi.
Uzi.
So, oh good, you can see it on the screen. So first of all, let me just say by starting that the language itself, are you from South Africa too? Fantastic. So you must have learned in a cheder or something, from King David, or right?
Weizmann and Herzliya.
Oh really? Fantastic. This language is not like any other language. We believe this is what we call the Shona Kodesh. It's the language of God. All right? And we know it is the language of God. By the time we finish the course, I think you will be convinced that this language could not have been created by men. It couldn't have. But we'll see. I'll ask you that question in 6 weeks or 8 weeks. You see, the question is, how do we know it's the Shona Kodesh, right? Do you know how we know?
How old is it?
How do we know? No, how do we know that this is the language of God? Right.
We just believe blindly because we have no other. We can either believe it or not believe it. We choose to believe it. There's no way to prove it.
That's an explanation. But it says in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, right? And the whole universe was an utter mess. Tohu vavohu, we just got. And then it said that the Spirit of God was hovering over the water, and there was black abyss and so on. And then God said, let there be
light.
Let there be light, right?
Yair.
Vayhi-or, that's what he said. Now when he said let there be light, he could have said it in English. He could have said let there be light. He didn't. He said Vayhi-or. So when he spoke this language. More than that, some would believe that the first 6, 7 words, it really means something different. It says Bereshit bara Elohim et. That means in the beginning God created va, et. Et is Aleph Taf. Okay, these are the first letter of the language and the last letter of the language. Meaning in the beginning he created the letters. And then he took those letters, put it into words, and then said 10 things, and an entire universe was created. Okay? So this just, I just want to give you a quick introduction to the fact that it's not just any other language. More than that, the language itself has 22 letters, 22 altogether. In Hebrew, the word for letter is ot. But it's not letter. That's a bad translation because ot in Hebrew means a sign. So the letters themselves are not letters, they are signs. Okay. For example, here's on the board I show the first letter. The name of this letter is Aleph. We know, and this is from the oral Torah and many other sources, that each letter, of course, has its own pronunciation, its own sound, very much like, very similar to other languages. But the difference is that the sign of the letter has a meaning, okay? And each letter, and that is a spiritual meaning that it has. It has a negative or a positive meaning, okay? Not only that, each letter has a numerical value that also give hints to the meaning of things, okay, in the language itself. But what's important to remember is that each letter has a spiritual positive connotation or powers and a negative one. All right. For example, here's the first letter, Aleph. I will say that we have 22 letters, and I will tell you that we have, I think it's 5 sounds in the language, just like in English. Are you familiar with the vowels in English? Mm-hmm. What are they?
A, E, I, O, U.
Exactly. A, E, I, O, U. Those are the sounds, approximately, in the English language.
Just follow them? That's it?
That's it. Well, we have also the silent sound, right? Like the V, the letter V. I mean, the sound of V is in love. Mm-hmm. Right? That's called the silent sound. In Hebrew, it's exactly the same. We don't, the equivalent sound would be E, I, A, O, U. E for A, E for E, right? A for, right? For I, O for O, and U for U. Okay? Like Uruguay, right? E, I, A, O, U. These are the only sounds we have. So if you master those 5 sounds, you're done. All you have to know is what is the sound of each letter, and you're done. So
say that again.
As far as the sound,
if
you could master those 5 sounds, E, I, A, O, U, and then you know this letter, for example, what does it sound like? So this letter will sound either E, I, A, O, U. This one, for example. So if you knew what the sound looks, what the sound is, you'll be able to pronounce the word, because each word has vowels and syllables, and you will be done. So it will be quite simple.
Brilliant concept.
Yeah?
I never heard it put that way
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
I've never heard it put like that before.
All right, good.
Good job.
All right.
Good job.
So what? Oh, look what I've done.
Oh no.
What I've done is I put a slide presentation. I'll send it to you by email once I have your emails, so you can slide presentation.
I don't hear so good.
That's fine. So sit closer to me.
It doesn't matter how close I sit to you.
That's okay. If you don't hear me, ask me. I'll repeat.
If you put your hand in front of your mouth,
Yeah.
I can't hear you properly.
I understand.
That's me.
All right.
Okay.
If you don't hear me, then ask me. I'll say it again.
I will. Don't worry. I don't want to stop the clock, but I will ask you.
So I put together this slide presentation, and one of my purposes is the proper pronunciation of words. Okay? You would come to shul often, and people will be sitting on the bima, standing on the bima, or doing the prayers and so on, and they make hundreds of mistakes. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
Really?
Yes, really.
Because by mistake, you mean they don't get the sounds right?
Correct.
They think they're getting it right,
Correct.
but they're not.
They don't know that they don't
Really?
get it right. And oftentimes it's because the original teacher that taught them didn't teach them correctly, because the teachers didn't know enough. By the way, this year I'm doing the class because the board of directors doubled my salary for the class from 0.
Yeah.
So now it's double.
00.
So I decided to do the class again. I'm getting twice as much.
Double zero.
This year.
Nothing wrong with 100%.
You know what's funny? Because last year they also doubled it from 0. So,
Wow.
so one of my purposes is to make sure that we pronounce the words correctly. You should know that twice a week, Brendan, twice a week we read the Torah? How many times? 3 times, right? Monday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Correct.
When the person who reads the Torah makes a mistake in the reading, okay, he's supposed to repeat the word if he made a mistake. And if he did make a mistake, when I grew up, people used to go like this, like that. That means a mistake. You have to repeat the word again. Because we have a law that says that we should not add anything to the Torah and not subtract anything from it. So if you mispronounce the word, it may have a different meaning. Yeah? For example, in English, you have the word live. It took me a long time to learn English. Live and live.
Where do you come from?
From Jerusalem.
From Israel. Really?
Yeah.
An Israeli?
My wife is married to an Israeli.
Gonna get some-
I'm Israeli, yeah.
Do you want something to drink?
What did I have?
Right here.
Diet Coke or regular Coke or
You want some whiskey? What?
Water would be, no. Thank you.
Carry
The
on,
water
carry on,
would be
Mr.
great.
Yair.
Please continue, please continue.
Carry on.
So,
Well, you know, I've been in some shuls, and sometimes when they're reading from the Torah, the rabbi stumbles or wobbles, and somebody usually comes to his assistance. You mean that the rabbis sometimes don't get the sounds right?
well, I should tell you,
Because that's the
reading the Torah is very, very difficult. The person who reads, in order to read correctly, they practice and prepare at least 8 hours of preparation before they read the Torah.
So they
On a
read
daily
it-
basis.
They read the portion for 8 hours a day before they read
Before-
it in front of the community.
Correct, to prepare. It's
Really?
very, very difficult. Very difficult.
Why? Is it a different style of Hebrew letters?
No, it's not the letters, it's the
There's
punctuation.
There's no little things underneath,
No, nothing.
nothing.
The things underneath is, those are
There's no
vowels.
cantillations.
There's
There's
vowels
just,
and there's no vowels.
There's no
in the
vowels.
Torah.
Thank you, thank you. All right.
so the point is that at the end of the class, if you're going to hear Torah reading, you will be able to ascertain if the reader made a mistake or not. So you'll be able to go like that. All right? Not only that. Oh, nice. So what will happen is that, yeah. Yeah, so did it come back? Oh no, it turned down to the video came to the wrong, oh there we go. That's good.
Your cable's not in.
It's not in, huh?
I don't think so.
Good with you.
It's not driving.
Oh no, it's not in, you're right.
There we go.
Okay. So you'll be in a position to be able to ascertain if the person made a mistake or not. Not only that, if you needed to make any baracha, any blessing, you'll be able to do it. Okay? So let us start. I'll try to add much more than just the reading stuff. And if I do too much, please tell me. Okay? But the first letter of the alphabet, we have 22 letters. The first letter is the Aleph. It's called Aleph. Okay? The Aleph itself is an amazing letter. You know, first of all, you should know that the numerical value of this letter is 1. And the name of the letter is Aleph. The sound of the letter is always connected to the name of the letter. So if you knew the name of the letter, you know its sound. It's very much like so in English, right? Like A, it has the sound A, right? B is B, right? V is V. So in Hebrew it's the same thing. Aleph has the sound A, all right? That's what it sounds. So out of the 5 sounds, we will have other A, or according to the vowels in English, E, I, A, O, U. Those are the only sounds. Of course, there is something that is called the silent sound, like the V in love. That's called like this. That's silent. Okay. I purposely put this form of the Aleph on the board because this is what the Aleph looks like in the Torah. Okay. So the font of the Torah, I put it so you can recognize it if you wanted to. In a book, it will look very much like so, okay, like on the board. In fact, if you open on page 7, okay, of our book. Oh, I forgot to say something important, that the class is sponsored by the NJOP, the National Jewish Outreach Program, and we thank them so much for providing us the material. The Aleph itself sounds just like A. Notice on the top we see an X and a line underneath. Okay? The line itself is the punctuation. It's a punctuation. It connotates to us that it's rendering the sound A in the Hebrew language. Now here's a very interesting way to remember it. Okay? You'll notice on the board, right? You have the letter itself is over here, the line is down here, and you see, Melvin? Shimshon. This punctuation is called patach. Okay? You should think about this line as a tongue depressor. Are you familiar with what a tongue depressor is? You go to the doctor, right? He asks you, he takes the tongue depressor, he goes and he goes, say, This is it. So that's how you would remember that this cantillation here, punctuation, is a patach. It renders the sound okay? So, that's very easy. The name of that cantillation again is patach. If you remember that, that's good. You don't have to remember what the name of the cantillation is. But if you had a pen, I would write down a note that that's a sound The next thing is this one, right here. It's like a plus sign, you see that? This plus sign is called the kamatz, okay? And this one also has the sound So people say, well, what do you need two for, right? One is enough if it sounds the same. You know, the reason is that in the Hebrew language, every vowel is either short or long. If you think about it, if you think it through, this is the reason that creates an accent, okay? Whether the vowel is short or long. Do you say doter or dora? How do you say it? Doter, daughter, or doter? You can say any word. You can say in many different ways, which will be your accent. Insurance or insurance, right?
Correct.
So
The emphasis.
is the emphasis and the speed by which you say any vowel, the long or short.
Okay.
Okay?
That's very true.
All right.
It's you. That's why our accents sound different to an American accent because of the way that we pronounce the words. Same word, spelled the same way, but it is, we
Sounds
say it
different.
differently. We sometimes say one part of it longer or shorter, and that's why our accent is different.
And you know which word that is, which letter that is?
Which is it?
It's the letter A. We say grass,
Yeah.
and they say grass.
Right.
That's the, and it always, the accent trips up on the letter A.
Right. But you know, in English, you have the same thing. You have L-I-V-E. What is that in English?
Could be live
Or
or
live.
live.
Or live, right? And if you want to go away, just get out of here. What is it? Leave.
Leave.
L-E-A-V-E. So the same sound E is long with A-E. It's much longer. It's leave versus live. Right? That's the best example I could give you for in English that you have short vowels and long vowels. Same thing here. Except here we are rendering the short and the long vowels by the cantillation itself. So this one is a patach, it's the long one, and this is fast, You see the difference? And
Use it in a word.
Not yet. It's coming. So for those of you, let's just do a quick practice. Brendan, you want a book? Page 7 on the bottom. Melvin, you want to start? Line number 5.
So,
This is the most difficult part of the book.
So, line number 5.
Yeah, read it.
So, line number is
I think you missed one.
ah.
Yeah. Your turn. Number 6. Exactly. And I'll do number 7. So I just did it for you to show you that it's a bit longer than the way you did it. A little bit longer. Okay? That's all. That's what we need to know in this. So now, when we have an Aleph, without this cantillation on this one, is the sound for which is A. Alright? And that's the first letter. I should tell you that given that Aleph is the first letter, Aleph is usually has the connotation of power, of God, alright, of unity. It's one. Okay? Alright? You should know that. In fact, soon I will explain more stuff, but I'll just tell you that the letter itself is comprised of two letters actually. This one right here, this small one, it's another letter. It's called Yud. We're going to learn about it soon. This is called a Vav, okay? And here's this letter upside down actually, okay? So Yud is the first letter of God's name, okay? And the Vav in Hebrew is always it's called the connecting Vav. The Vav itself renders end in Hebrew. Like you and I, that's the Vav. If you have a Vav, that means it's connecting. Okay? So people will tell you that this is the Aleph itself represents the connection from God and Israel, which is also starts with this letter. Okay? Meaning God above and Israel below. Or the connection of God in the heavens and the people on earth. Alright? And I should also tell you that if you looked at the numerical value of those three letters, Yud, Vav, Yud, Yud is 10, Vav is 6, and another 10. How much do you have?
I don't know.
6, 10, 10.
26.
26. This is exactly the numerical value of the big name of God. Alright? Exactly the value of the name of God. So I just wanted to give you that insight into the letter. But Aleph itself, if you ask any Israeli, any Hebrew reading person, what does Aleph represent? Means first. First. Because Aleph, first of all, Aleph. It's an Aleph Kol, right? First of all, that's Aleph Kol, right? That's the Aleph. That's it. We can now learn about the Bet. Are you ready?
Okay.
And we have 22 of these. Only 22. Now this letter is the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Notice, what does it look like? The name of it is Bet, okay? Bet. What does it look like? The sign of Bet.
To me,
Yeah?
it looks like a boat moving forward with a wind sail.
Okay, that's not bad. Which direction? It's moving this way?
Moving that way.
Oh, this is the boat you mean? And the
That's the
sail?
boat.
Okay, not bad. That's because of the font. All right. Anything? Anybody else?
Looks like an inverted U.
An inverted U. It's a house. It's a house with a very strong base. Okay? Very strong base. Here's the room inside. Here's the door to get into the house. Here's the roof. Okay? So Bet in Hebrew means a house. All right? It's the second letter. The numerical value of Bet is 2. Okay? What letter does the Torah starts with?
Aleph.
Breshit, B.
Bet. The Torah starts with
The
Bet.
first word in the Torah.
Huh?
The first word in the Torah.
Breshit.
Yeah, it starts with Bet, not with Aleph.
B. Okay.
You would think that the first letter of word in the Torah will start with Aleph. In fact, there was a huge argument among the letters which letter will start the Torah. Bet won. And for good reason, because Bet itself means the house. And we're talking because the story of Bereshit is the story of creation, right? What's the creation? This world, which is our house. This is where we live. In this house. In this universe we live. There may be multiple universes, but this is it. And the Bet is... Say it again?
Beit Knesset.
Right. So Bet means house. Not only that, you have to understand that Bet itself has the numerical 2. This is the first number that is visible as a whole. Aleph cannot be divided as a whole. God cannot be divided. That's what we call God the infinity. Aleph, right? It's 1. You divide 1 by 2, you get half. That's not 4. But Bet is the first number that could be divided. God could not be divided. If you take infinity, God is we call him the infinite, right? You divide infinity by 2, what do you get, you know? Infinity. You
More
can,
infinity.
oh, it's the same number. You multiply it by 2, it's still the same number. It's indivisible. Indivisible. Alright? God cannot be divided. This world could be divided. I can take this table and tear it apart to many, many different pieces. You cannot do it with an Aleph. But that's why bet is the number 2, okay? And in fact, he would ask me, okay, and one will always wonder, you know, this is the house, but you see that the base of the house is longer than the roof, right? And the question is, why does it have this little thing that made you think this may be a boat that's moving this way? Well, the Mishnah tells us that when they ask the bet, who created you? It went like this, it went like this.
Pointed to the Aleph.
It pointed to the Aleph like this. And how did he point? Aleph is before bet, right? This is how he pointed like this. This guy did it. Okay? So Aleph created me. So the bet itself, the sound of bet is just like in B. Like bet as in B in English. Alright? And it's very, very simple. You wanted some words, right? So first of all, this is ba, and this ba and ba, right? This is longer, this is shorter, right? And then now we can say the first word in Hebrew, okay? This is a, ba. See it? A, ba. Notice that on purpose, I put another Aleph over here. This is really, truly a silent Aleph. Do we have silent letters in English?
We have what?
Silent letters in English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give me an example.
A Y.
Which one?
The letter Y.
No, but any word. Give me a word
word.
that has a silent letter in it.
Clothe. Silent E.
There's every letter in English. Every word in English has almost every one. Every word in English has a silent letter. How do you say?
Bye.
Bye. Where's the E at the end? It's silent. There's no sound to the E at bye. Is there? Live. What about the E in live? Every letter, almost every word in English has a silent letter. It makes it very difficult for us.
To learn the language.
Why is there an E after live? At the end of live, why is there an E? What for? How do you say? You have kids? You have a daughter? How do you spell daughter? D-A-U-G-H-T-E-R. If I was going to spell daughter, D-O-T-E-R, daughter. What about U-O-G-H? All of them are silent letters, 4, one after another. You don't pronounce them, right? Kingsborough, borough, same thing, right? Borough, like the borough of Queens, right? R-O-U-G-H you have in there. Oh my God, who invented this language? Crazy. I need to meet that guy who did it. So here we have a silent letter. It's truly silent. It does not pronounce. So this one is Abba. See that? Abba, which means father. And there is another letter, another word, Ba, which means come. So Abba, Ba. You good? Let's say it together. Abba, Ba. 1, 2, 3. Abba, Ba. So the sound of this letter is bet. Okay? Let's look at page 8, I believe. Do a quick review of that. Aha. It's page 9, is it not? Yeah, we skip page 8 because it's all the same, right? But let's just practice page 8. So, Shimshon, you want to start?
Yeah. So, ba 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 ba.
Okay. Now, between us boys, I'd like you to pronounce it the patach longer than the kamat. So you decide your speed, right? But when you read it, I want to hear that it's a bit longer. I should tell you one thing about this. Today, you know, when people speak, it's very difficult. If you hear them speak, it's very difficult to notice whether it's a long vowel or a short vowel, because they speak very fast, right? Also, when people read, then they don't pay attention too much to that, which is okay. That's okay. I just want you to know that there could be changes in meanings depending whether it's a short vowel or a long vowel for the same letter, for the same word. Okay, there could be a change. All right. So I just want us to be conscious about the fact that we have short and long. So do it again for me.
So it's ba 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 ba.
Okay, not bad. But I want you to remember that the tepatach, the tongue depressor, is the longer one. The plus sign is the shorter one.
Okay.
Okay?
So it's
So it's
ba,
ba.
ba.
Much better. Much better. You, sir.
Which
Number
line?
2.
Ba, 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 ba.
Lovely. There's one thing inside here that you didn't ask me about. Look at the board. You see the bet has a dot inside? You see that? There's a dot inside. Also, the book has the bet with the dot inside. This dot, the name for which is a dagesh. That's what it's called. Dagesh. In Hebrew, that word means to accentuate, to stress it out, to stress it. Okay? We will soon learn what happens to this B without the dot inside. Okay? But if there's a, because remember in English we have a B, what will be the equivalent of B in English? Another letter, another letter.
A V.
A V. So a V and a B is almost the same, except that the B has a dagesh inside, right? You see the point?
Oh.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because a V and a B is exactly the same sound, one with accentuated, stressing it, one without, okay? So this one is truly the B, and what renders it a B is this dagesh inside, okay? You can imagine, without that dot inside, it will be a V, okay? It will be a sound of a V, all right? That's how we do it, okay, this little dot.
Okay.
So that's what that is about. All right, so let's do number 3. Now we have combination of letters, Melvin.
So aba,
Wait, just letters, it's just letters. Slow down, slow down. No rush. Number 3.
yeah. So you said just letters. So
Yeah.
So, but I just said letters. When did
No, you read it as a word, you did very fast. I'm slow.
Okay. So
Lovely, that's exactly right. Do number 4 for us.
Ba, 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 ba.
Lovely, this is it. Now, number 5 becomes more complicated because it's not just syllables, we have words too. So, Melvin, you go. Wait. Forgive me for interrupting you, rudely interrupting you. I want you to take your time. Take your time. The first letter is A. The next one is Ba. Slow.
Okay.
All right, you're very fast. Very good. Fine. Number 6.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. Ba, ba, aba, aba, ba.
That's exactly right. Very good. Number 7. Melvin? Lovely. And last but not least, number 8.
Ba, ba, aba, aba, ba.
Perfect. Very good. Very good. That's exactly right.
You know,
And, yes, sir?
as I'm saying each thing, I have to really concentrate on the line or the little T to make sure that I transfer it into the. That's,
Right.
I have to get that into my head somehow, because it's easy to not remember that.
Okay, but remember,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
very good. That's very good that you're thinking like that. It's very good. Because you see, this word in Hebrew is Abba.
Abba.
That's the word, it's Abba. And you can see that in Abba, the A is longer than the Ba. Otherwise, it will be Abba. But it's not, it's Abba. That's what makes the accent, that's what makes it correct versus incorrect. It's the length. People don't, again, don't worry about it. If you
Okay.
said Abba, I will be very happy. I'll be very happy no matter what, right? But this is very good that you're conscious about that. Very good. By the way, at the bottom of each page, once in a while, we're going to have a dictionary that will tell us what is what, right? So you'll notice indeed Abba is dad or father, right? And then Ba means came, okay? Notice that it's came and also is coming.
So that ba means come.
Yeah, it means both present tense and past tense. either came or is coming. Same word, same word. How would you know? Based on the context.
Okay, got it.
We good? Ah,
So
page 10.
we're getting a little bit of the letters and a mini introduction to some vocabulary.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Mini introduction.
All right. Here we're going to learn two things. First of all, we're going to learn a new sound, brand new sound. Okay? Second, we're going to learn about the sound for V in Hebrew. Okay? So as far as the letter itself is vet. Okay? Vet. Okay? Remember the other one we called it bet because there was the dagesh inside, right? This one doesn't have the dagesh. So that renders a V for us, this sound, without the dot inside. Okay? There's one more thing, is this sound here. These two dots underneath a letter is known as the silent sound. Okay? The name for the cantillation is shva. Shva, that's the name of it. And if we see it, then we're going to pronounce that letter like we would pronounce V is in love, in the word love. V. V. Okay? V is in love. Remember, that's the soundless sound. That's the easiest way to remember the silent sound. Okay? So it's not terribly silent, you can still hear it. V, right? It's very interesting that the Aleph does not have a silent sound. How would you say Aleph with a silent sound? You can't. It's absent. And would you expect that? Because if Aleph renders the God, it's you can't say it's not there. It's not there. You know, God, where is God? We don't see him. Well, if you look well, you can see God everywhere. But this is the sound v, just as V is in love. Okay? Now what happens is that these letters may appear at the end of a word. Okay? And if they do appear at the end of a word, they will have the silent sound. Example, this one. Av. See that? Av. So the bet, in this case, appears at the end of a word. It doesn't have any cantillation, and it still has a sound, but it's a silent sound. Av. Is that clear what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right. Av. Okay? Even though there's no two dots here, we still pronounce it v. Av. Okay? That's very important to remember. Another thing to remember, which is like very, very, very important. Let's see, I don't have it here, but if this sound appears in the beginning of the word, it's not the silent sound anymore. The sound will be e. Okay? I don't have good examples. I just want you to remember this because this is something that many people don't know here. And that's why they make lots of mistakes. So when this appears at the beginning of a word, they don't say eh, they say something else. The sound will be be. If this was the beginning of a word, it'll be be. Okay? Or in this case, ve, because it doesn't have the gesh. Alright? So,
And it doesn't come up that often?
it comes up all the time.
It does
All the time. All the time. And that's why there's so many mistakes, because they don't know it. They didn't learn it correctly. Or they didn't have a teacher that was a stickler, like I am. All right. So let us move over to page 12. Oh, no. It's page 10. Okay? And we'll start with line number 2. So remember, the sound is the sound of V. So if you were going to say, what are the possible sounds of this letter? It'll be ve, vi, va, vo, vu. Like e, I, a, o, u, right? It'll be ve, vi, va, vo, vu. Those are the possible sounds. Right now we learn 2 sounds, va and v. That's it. We don't have any other sounds. We have the va, which is long, and va, short, and v. Okay, Melvin?
Yeah.
Let's go, number 2.
So it's va, 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 va. Let's start again.
Okay.
It's va, 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 va.
That's it. But, right, exactly. All right, number 3.
Number 3.
Line 3.
Va, 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 va.
Perfect. Number 4.
Sorry. Ba, 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 va, ba, va, ba.
Lovely. Lovely. That's correct. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Number 5.
Ba, va, ba, 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 va, va, va. Don't say it. Ba.
All right. Very good.
Actually, a little longer. Ba.
No, you did well. You did well. In the middle, you had a slight error, but you get it for free this time. Number 6.
So, the. He's talking the,
Exactly right. So you see, the bet appears at the end of the word, and it has the silent sound. We can still hear it. Av. By the way, that also means father. Just FYI. So Abba means father, and Av means father. Same word. Same word. Okay. No, good. Now number 7.
Abba, 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 Ba.
8.
Av, ba, ba.
Lovely. And last but not least,
Abba, Ba.
exactly. And you know what it means? Number 9. What's Abba Ba?
Father come.
Father Kam or Father came, right? Or Avba, same thing. And you see the square on the bottom, it means the same thing, those two things. All right? Are we good?
Good.
Let's move on. Are you ready? Maybe by the end of the evening, we're going to finish the language, right?
We can have a conversation in Hebrew.
All right, the next letter is the Yud, okay? Hebrew has 2 vowels.
Wait, you missed the E's.
What do you mean?
What page are you on?
11.
Okay, me too. Sorry, I thought you.
He's right. He's going to talk about the vowel afterwards. So he's talking
Okay.
about you.
Yeah, yeah. I will talk about that. So I will tell you that Hebrew has 2 vowels only. English has 5. Hebrew has 2. As letters I'm talking about. In English you have A, E, I, O, U. In Hebrew, the first vowel is this letter, Yud. Okay? And this is how it appears in the Torah, this letter. Okay? Mind you, I did not put the line, but the line is here. Okay? The line that you write on. So it's much higher than the line. Okay?
Oh,
All
okay.
right? You don't see the line here. But so it's a small little thing at the top half of the line. Okay? Now this vowel renders the sound E. Okay? E.
E.
Right? So there are 2 ways to render that sound. Okay? The sound E. I skip. Wonder why. Interesting. I know what happened. Yeah. So if you look at the book, there are 2 X's there. You see that? The first X has a dot underneath, and the second one has a dot with the Yud, followed by the Yud. You should consider this X as replaceable by any letter. Any letter. Okay? So that's why it's an X, because it could be any letter. Okay? So for example, if the letter was Aleph, if this X was Aleph, this would be E, right? If it was a bet, it'll be B, right? Now, notice that it has the same sound. So why do we have one of them with just dot, another one with dot and a Yud? Why is that? Do you know? One of them short, the other one is long. That's right, that's the only reason. Okay? Only reason. So if it has a Yud afterwards, it means it's longer. Without the Yud, the sound E will be shorter. That's all. The name of this dot is called chirik. Okay? If you just wondered about it. Chirik is the name of that cantillation. So the dot underneath the letter renders the sound E for any letter. Okay? If it was Aleph, it'll be E. If it was a bet, it'll be B. If it was like a G, it'll be G. You know, whatever. Okay? So, are you ready to go?
Right.
By the way, otherwise this U doesn't have a sound. It's a vowel. It just renders the sound. Okay? All right, Melvin, you start.
E, E, V, V, A, V, V.
Lovely. Number 2.
V, V,
Yes.
V, 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 V.
Right.
The light
But the
thing.
one before last, what is it? The one before last, what is it?
V.
V. Very good. Very good. That's right. Let me do number 2 for you. B, V, V, B, B, V, V. Okay? All right, number 3, Melvin.
A, V, A, V, V.
Aha, not bad. Notice the word aviv, the third word before last. You see that? So now it became more complicated because we have aviv, right? So, and he did it right. It means spring, by the way. You know the city Tel Aviv, right? This is that word, Tel Aviv, this Aviv, okay? So, notice that the first syllable is a, and then we have viv, aviv. You did very well. Number 4.
Of, V, of, Avi.
Lovely, lovely. Number 5.
Abba,
Abba.
Abba, Abi, Ba, Abi.
Right. Abba, Avi, Ba, Avi. Okay? Number 6.
Ba, Avi, of, Avi.
Wonderful, wonderful. Number 7.
Ba, Abi, Av, Avi.
8.
Abba, Avi, Ba, Avi.
Lovely. 9.
Abba, Ba, Av, Ba, Abi, Ba.
So do the last 2 again for me.
Avi, Ba.
Thank you. Number 10.
Abba, Ba, Av, Ba, Avi, Ba.
Perfect. You guys are wonderful. Avi means my father. Okay? If you wanted to know something about the language, anytime you have a noun, like avi, with the sound E at the end, it means mine. That noun, mine. So av was what? What was av? We said av was what? Av.
Mine. Of his father.
Av is father. Avi is my father.
Right.
Okay? So when you have the noun, av, and you say the sound E for that word at the end, instead of av, avi, that means my father. Okay?
Right.
This is well beyond the scope of that class, but I figured I'll give it to you for free.
Okay.
I don't charge for that extra knowledge.
How about this? I know a lot of Israelis that have the first name Avi.
Correct.
Is it the same thing?
Exactly that name.
Their name is
My
my father. That's their real name.
Well, no. Well, I tell you where it comes from. Because that's their nickname. See, their name is Abraham.
Oh.
And so instead of saying the whole, like in English you say Abe.
You'd say Abe.
Instead of Abraham you say Abe, right? In Hebrew we say Avi.
Okay.
Okay?
Robert
but-
becomes Dick.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Richard.
Richard.
Right, exactly.
Richard becomes Dick.
That's right, as an example, right? So,
Yeah.
so Avi really is short for Avraham, but you're right, does mean my father, even as a nickname. And but as a first name, few people will be called Avi, like on their passport or something. It's probably Abraham.
Okay.
It's probably
Nickname.
Abraham.
Nickname. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. You can always interrupt me. I don't charge for this knowledge.
We're going to finish the whole alphabet tonight.
No. We're going to go for men now. Because the problem is that there are either 3 or 4 women who went to the Chala class or the JCC. They sent me emails and asked me to Brendan to take the tape so they can see it.
Oh.
So given that you guys are so advanced, it's very dangerous to move forward because next week we're going to do a review.
Got to understand something here. I think both of us have an advantage. we both went to Jewish schools,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And so we have this somewhere in our memory bank.
Yeah, yeah. So my job is to
Your
raise
job
it,
is to
raise
bring
it back
out.
up. Yeah, and I'm
For somebody that never had exposure to any Cheder or Hebrew growing up, this is very difficult,
it could be. It could be.
especially Goyim. You know?
Right. So there were 3-4 people who did not join us. Next week,
Next week,
hopefully they'll join. So it'll be a short review because I don't want to go too far. I don't want to go too far. I just want to do the letter Mem today, and then we'll go home. Okay, and that'll be enough. But the letter Mem, look at it. Look at it on the board. I should tell you that the letter Mem. So that's the third letter we learned, the fourth, right? The fourth. How many letters did we learn? We learned Aleph, Bet, and Yud. But we learned the Yud as a vowel, not as a sound, right? Just as a vowel. Because the Yud could be a sound, it could have a sound too.
Yeah.
Like yeah, right? Like Yisrael, right? But we didn't learn that yet. The fourth letter is Mem. Mem is an amazing letter. Amazing letter. The letter Mem in Hebrew has the spiritual connotation of renewal, of a rebirth. Okay? Rebirth. Okay? So, for example, the word for mother in Hebrew will have Mem in it, for sure. Because that's how we get kids, right? The mother bears babies. Renewal. Em or Ima, right? The value of Mem, can you guess what will be the numerical value of Mem?
You could never place a value on it.
It's so precious. 40. And 40 is the number of renewal. How many years have we walked through the desert?
40.
40 years. And we walked 40 years until the whole generation replaced, and then we enter the country, right? How many days did it rain during the flood?
40
40.
days.
40 days and 40 nights, huh? So the whole generation was extinguished except for Noah and his family, right? And that's a renewal. How many days did Moshe come out on the mountain when he received the Torah?
40.
40. I'm telling you, 40 is the sign of renewal, okay? So that's one thing. But I think for now, I'll stop for now. Next week I'll tell you more about the Mem. Were you going to say something?
I'm distracted now. but what I was getting from you is 40 years equals a generation. They walked in the desert for 40 years to wipe out most of the older generation and to allow the newer generation.
Right.
Is that what 40 years?
Only
is a
men,
generation?
by the way. There was a punishment.
Only the men.
Only men. The women did go in. The women did go into the country. You know what happened?
No.
Shortly after they crossed the ocean, God tells Moshe to select 12 people to spy on the country before they were going to enter.
Yes.
So each tribe, almost like the tribe heads, all right, went in to spy on the country.
Each tribe sent one of its people as a spy. There were 12 people.
Caleb ben Yefuneh was one, and Joshua ben Nun was another, okay, and then 10 more. But Joshua was one of them, and Caleb ben Yefuneh was Caleb, right? They came back, and they made a report. And they spoke badly about the country, about the land, the promised land, to a point where they scared the people so much, they said that there are giants in this country, and they have fortified cities, and there is no way we can beat them, the people in the country. The people started crying of fear, and that was a sin in the eyes of God.
To cry.
No, to be afraid. Because we just had the 10 plagues. He freed us from slavery. He crossed the ocean. He gave us the manna from the sky and so on. So for God, if God is not with you, of course He's with you. Why? What are you so worried about? So the lack of faith is what the problem was, the lack of faith. Not the fact that they cried. They cried because they had no faith. Because Joshua ben Nun and Caleb said, no, don't worry, we can do it. No problem. Right? But because of that, the punishment was to not enter the country for 40 years. Okay? But the women did go in, but the men did not.
The men stayed in the...
The men died. But women didn't. Women did go in.
So how did the population continue if the men were dead?
Oh, there were children. The children of the children.
Okay,
Yeah.
Now I'm with you, okay.
Yeah.
The men children were alive.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
fascinating.
so I will just tell you that the mem itself is the sound for which the equivalent is m, ma, okay? So if you see on the board, I have a word here. What do you think it sounds? Me, right? Me, which means who in Hebrew. Okay. So what I'll do is this. Next week, I'd like to meet at 7 instead of 7:30. Is that okay? Because prayer ends at 7, and there's a huge.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Can I ask you a question or two before I give you an answer?
Yeah.
This class is like once a week?
Yeah, for
On
6
a
weeks.
Thursday for 6 weeks.
Or less. If it's only you, we will finish it in 2 weeks.
But I didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's always at about an hour.
Yeah.
It'll be about an hour.
Right.
Okay. I'll probably have to skip next Thursday. Is that good or bad?
It's a free country.
No, I know it's a free country, but in this effort, what I'm trying to do, to try to understand and be able to read it a little bit, is next week's lesson critical?
Will be the same.
Same as this.
We're going to learn out of
Other
3 or
letters.
4 letters.
Okay. I'll leave,
Out of 3 or 4 letters.
I'll leave on Wednesday, I'm back on Friday.
Okay, so
But
we'll miss you.
after that-
Take the book with you.
Yeah?
Take the book with you. So we're going to do the next 3 or 4 letters next week. Depending on the makeup of the class, because if people come, we'll see what will happen next week.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Brendan.
very much.